The personal views expressed by our podcast guests are their own and are not legal advice or official statements by their organizations. Hello, my name is Debbie Reynolds. They call me the Data Diva. This is the Data Diva Talks Privacy podcast, where we discuss data privacy issues with industry leaders around the world with information that businesses need to know now. I have a very special guest on the show, Elizabeth Aguado. She is an emerging technologies and responsible AI professional, all the way from Lima, Peru. Welcome.
Thanks, Debbie.
I'm so happy to have you here. You and I have been connected on LinkedIn for quite some time. We actually had a chance to collaborate with one another on a course that you were working on with Stanford. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them how you came to this career path.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Debbie. And definitely that one of the things I love the most is the opportunity to collaborate with people all over the world. And certainly it was such an honor to have you as part of the pilot program with Stanford last year. And I think it's quite an experience to have. So I started in technology in about the end of 2020 when I started a course in AI with TU Delft. And I was by that time in the manufacturing industry. And I knew that automating was like a huge thing. So that's why I was already trying to upskill. However, I think the beginning of last year that I really started looking into more ways to participate in making of AI not just this nice word that all companies want to jump on, right? But also know more about the technology. So I started taking courses in AI ethics, which I already knew a little bit about that, but not enough. And I found myself more interested with the background I had been studying, and my interest just grew and more, and I would be so passionate about this. I knew that responsible AI was something that was worth really putting all your time into it. See, in Peru and Chile, countries where I have lived, let's say it's in our culture that we worship big tech. Okay, we at a young age we're always like asking kids, "Who do you admire?" And my generation would answer Bill Gates, and it's not even questionable. Like it's gonna have that impact. This generation now, it's saying Elon Musk is as the person you admire the most, and they see so many qualities. So what I found myself doing is, okay, of course, there are many engineers in this country and in Chile, many people working on this, but how many of them are really thinking about the impact and the consequences of these technologies? And that's also where I found professionals in data and other emerging technologies like you. And it has been really a nice journey.
Wow, thank you for that. You'd explain a little bit more around responsible AI. So we know, I guess we see a lot in the news, as you say, like for your example, that people really look up to are these tech titans that create all these products and services that they use every day. But what we see in the news mostly is very much excitement about the types of things that you can do with AI. And you don't hear a lot of talk about why you need to have responsible AI. So people are like, I feel like some people are like, oh, AI is this cool thing. It's fun. We can make money from it. But then a lot of people are pushing back. So they're like, well, if you have guardrails or you're using AI, quote unquote, in responsible ways, then you're going to stifle innovation. So can you tell me a little bit about why you think responsible AI is important?
Well, definitely the technology is getting better and better. I feel like whatever we're doing isn't even fast enough. I know right now we have many frameworks in responsible AI. We have many organizations, international organizations, and even ISOs. The way I see it at a global scale is like you don't even have to wait that long for it to see it. Like I see it in the news here too. We got news about a judge using ChatGPT to make a verdict on a child support or, handling those kind of cases that really have an impact in people's lives. It's not really about, okay, I'm using generative AI for copy or for advertising. These people are being affected by these technologies. And so responsible AI is more akin towards not just kind of feeling like you're more moral than others, right? Or preaching, but certainly that we need to work on critical thinking and the ways that we implement this technologies. I see here that we do need responsible AI. What people see at first is, oh, this is fast. This is going to democratize research and so many things. But the need is not just in the US or in Europe, it's also in the global south.
Let's talk a little bit about the global south. Obviously, a lot of times when we hear people talk about data privacy or data protection, you hear a lot about the US and you hear a lot about Europe, and you don't hear enough about the global south, even though it's very active in data protection. It has been for decades. But give me a sense for the audience what's happening in the global south. For people who don't understand what's happening in data protection, give us an idea of what's happening.
I can mostly speak for South America and Latin America, Caribbean. I'm not very aware about the situation in Africa or the Philippines, let's say. But something I also wanted to tell you about is my project. What I'm trying to do is to really connect different professionals from in different countries and collaborate with them. I am also interested in making more connections in Brazil. Is one of the first countries that they already have laws. Let's say kind of like the executive order you guys had in the US, and it's already being worked at a Congress level, which is different from Chile or Peru. It depends on the country. For Chile, I'm also collaborating with Kenneth Pugh in building of a cybersecurity infrastructure, like at least having that goal that by 2030 Chile will have a really robust structure that would also help with the perception of the country. And so I think Colombia and other neighboring countries are also trying to follow what UNESCO or other international institutions come up with, like the AI EU Act, right? My concern is that we already have a slow system, and like if you tell me, well, wow, it took that long for the EU to finish their first version, then I don't know how long it's gonna take here. And like I said, it's already been used by judges. It's already been used. Like, say, we had this topic, right, about facial recognition, and during our time collaborating for the pilot program at Stanford. But the thing is, here, a lot of things are being just thrown to to people, like facial recognition. Like, you cannot opt out. Use it like for apps. All the fintech is like they require your biometrics, and they really don't follow any regulation in particular. Sometimes they are subscribe GDPR, but then they make you sign that you give consent. So since you give consent, then it doesn't really matter. So for facial recognition, I see that here it's already happening, and there's less attention on this ethical questions, or you also have to look at it from a geopolitical standpoint, because China is growing and Latin America is like the first partner, and a lot of a lot of our countries, because since we have a big mining industry, also the minerals that you find here can be used, right, for batteries, all the semiconductors industry. So it's really a complex problem, and I really am concerned about the society and how are we going to be able to face the many challenges, because at least in the EU or in the US, you have an executive order, you have, right, you're one step ahead. We are just attending different conferences, and but our authorities are really slow. So that's really one downside, right? Major, because technology, like I said, it's so fast and we can't keep up.
How do you feel? What's in the world happening right now that you're seeing in privacy or data or AI that's concerning you?
The the situation where privacy has a really high price, right? If I'm really honest with myself, I have many privileges, right? Because not because of the access to information that I have, but it's also resources, right? You want to have a good, like, say I use Proton. They don't pay me, right? I'm not trying to advertise Proton, but you pay for privacy, because it's true, there's privacy by design, but privacy has a cost. And I don't see how people in Latin America can access that. And like, you see that the price of ChatGPT, which is 20 USD, here it means more. So it's that about democratizing education. It's also tricky, right? So I would say that that's also something that other countries in the global south will have a problem with, because just as with some communities in the states where the schools don't have access to the same resources or are underfunded, here is like 10x that. So that for me is really something to work on. And all I could come up with at the moment, and then that's something that I'm also working with, is data literacy and collaboration between countries through my project Ignite Lab. And definitely that's trying to empower the users.
Do you feel that people, just your sense, do you feel that people seem to be caring or asking more questions about privacy now? That we have all these emerging technologies and using facial recognition and things like that. What is your feeling?
Unfortunately, I don't see a lot of people concerned. They like, again, from the perspective of the people in the global south or Latin America, it's like everything is like price, right? Access. People just want to have access. They don't care about privacy. They don't find that their data is that valuable, right? And they prefer not to know. They don't want to know, right? But I try to ignite those conversations. I try to really have that space to make that. You have to create the spaces for people to talk about it. It's not something that you can just, run into people and just talk about your data privacy or your practices, right? It takes time. So I'm trying to also build safe spaces where you can work and talk about the good things about technology, but also voice your concerns.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the course that you and I collaborated on together. So you asked me to speak at one of you all's sessions, and I spoke about biometrics, I believe, on the session with you. But tell me a little bit about that project.
Yes, so that project was like the second edition, I believe, from Tech, Ethics, and Public Policy that Stanford was offering. The cohorts are often in the fall, and as I collaborate with All Tech is Human, I'm part of the working groups. I decided to apply for the course, and they asked us if we wanted to be leaders and we would have groups. And so I tried to organize, right, our sessions with a group from All Tech is Human. Of course, the program is made for many other practitioners, not just a certain type. They had guests guests like Sam Altman, right? They had Jacinda Under, right, from New Zealand, and many, many more. And I think a lot of people know about Professor Rob Reich, right, from the book System Error, and like the other professors were also delivering part of the videos, the sessions. This course was mainly online. I mean, yeah, it was online. I mean, a virtual course, but the guests were obviously live. Our sessions, the one that you helped us with, was the synchronous pilot, since they were also evaluating that, well, since this program is so useful, not just in the US, but other countries, it would be much better to have it recorded and also have the sessions, right? With their respective. And we had people joining from California with different time zones, right? So we were able to meet once a week and work on the readings. And you did facial recognition, which was part of, I think, we're week 5 or 6. And this was a 7 week long program. I know that they are starting to roll out the ads for the new cohort. I got really great feedback from the other organizers, and I cannot be more thankful that we were able to have you and for you to explain to us more about your consulting experience, right? You're someone that has hands-on practice, and it's not just the theory, right? We had access to great material nonetheless, but it it's a different feeling, right? To have someone who works in the industry to share with you what's happening, and you really guided us through some laws as well, right? Different in different states, and that was really enriching. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure. People still watch that and contact me about that session because I put it
Yeah,
online.
you should share the link again so they can go over it.
It was very good, very good. Thank you. It was my pleasure to be able to do that. I want your thoughts on something that's happening in South America that's concerning me or something that caught my attention. And I want your thoughts on it. So, in Chile, actually, they made an addition to their constitution to add in neural rights. And I think it's the first country in the world that has done that. But I want your thoughts on this. So this is such a big, hot, emerging issue. You know, we see a lot of activity, especially with companies that are developing technology, neural technology, you
Right.
know, human brain interfaces and things like that. But I was very impressed that Chile actually had added, you know, they thought it was so important that they added to their constitution. But I just want your thoughts on that and what that means, you think.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons that I also want to still collaborate a lot with Chile and stay in touch, because they really make it a priority to work on the regulations, on the legislation and everything regarding emerging technologies. They are not waiting. They're already starting those thorny conversations, and I think that it also helps that Chile doesn't, I mean, it's it's not a small country, but population-wise it's manageable. And so let's say it would be like a little what can I put it? Like a little Norway, I don't know, right? Where you can also test for many scenarios. And that is very useful, right? Because You want to sandbox a lot of things before just jumping and banning something or right. And so what I have seen firsthand is that there's a great initiative from not just private but public universities. They're also working a lot in quantum technologies, and they are trying to already educate like the healthcare industry about the, like you said, neurotech, and all the other emerging technologies. Uh, they want to be one of the first countries in the region to lead and to set a good example. And well, those schools have I think they have really great people working in those roundtables, and so I expect a lot from them, and I really think I benefit from having those connections. I know there is a conference for women in AI for Chile, but it's sponsored by a private university, and they also collaborate with this senator I told you. And so you can see that they really put the effort, right, to make both the public and the private sector collaborate. And I think that's a good model for Peru and Colombia and other countries.
That's an excellent point you made around the private and public collaboration on these types of things. But I think also one of the things that really struck me around adding neural rights to the Constitution is sort of staking your claim, saying, hey, we know that these technologies are out there. We know that companies will continue to develop those things. People will probably they'll have reasons to want maybe these types of technologies, but then we also have to keep in mind that people should have rights over their data and their information as it relates to their bodies, right?
Yes. Chile is also a country that cares a lot about the individual as a whole. And if I compare it to other, like even Peru is like, unfortunately in Peru, we take care more of the investors over the people. And the government really, I mean, will do anything to just keep investors, international investors. I don't find that there's enough of a connection between those sectors. And so I think each country, yes, have their own particularity. Is kind of like each state in the US, right? But I think we need good leaders.
So, if it were the world according to you, Elizabeth, and we did everything you said, what would be your wish for privacy or data protection anywhere in the world, whether that be regulation, human behavior, or technology?
I'm in the middle, right? I believe that emerging technologies have the capacity to augment human intelligence and really help solve complex problems. Like for example, in the global south, right, we struggle with extreme poverty and, access to basic healthcare, vaccines, healthcare, right? There are still diseases that have not been eradicated. And like particularly in Peru, for example, the children are anemic, and that affects how much they learn, right? Because you go to school and you have low blood count, then what kind of learning are you going to do? Is it going to solve it to have ChatGPT do your homework? If, at the core, the problem is that, you don't have your basic needs covered, right? What I would expect in an ideal world, right, it would be that we don't just base our decisions on maximizing growth, because growth is tricky, right? I understand that governments want to be more productive, but like for the reasons I have explained to you, I think that in this context, we need to be more careful. We should also invest in cultivating our humanness, right? We should not stop investing in the human capacities and the skills that also make us human. I think that's something that right now is lacking. My wish would be that yes, the objective would not be just growth or economic growth more specifically, but that they would also think of AI and emerging technologies with the objective of improving people's lives. Even if that could mean one thing in Japan and another in the States, or right, but the human at the center.
Human at the center. And I agree what you said very poignantly, that those things can mean different things in different regions. So I totally agree with you on that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so happy that I've gotten to know you, and thank you for inviting me to participate with you on your Stanford project. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll find other ways we can collaborate in the future for sure.
For sure. And I would encourage people to watch that recording of that session because it's really, really great, or just general. You
Yeah,
know
I'll
it.
provide a link for people. I'll provide a link.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. And y'all can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm very active in that platform.
Yeah, she is. Definitely connect with Elizabeth on LinkedIn. She's amazing, and I love the things you post too. So thank you so much.
Bye bye.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.